Hi, another go-round with the kids from Gene and Liz Guarilia, Boston Celtics number 20. Today, this session, they're going to talk a little bit more about the basketball. So take
it away. Dad was not afraid of anybody. He went to play with the pros, the best of the best, and Dad held his own, and they tried initiating him when he was a rookie. The first couple of days of practice, I know Jim Luskatoff, who was already a veteran player, was roughing up my dad or giving him cheap shots, and my dad didn't back down. He actually went after him, and they called my dad Hercules, or Herc for short, on the team because he was a streetwise, pretty rough guy who didn't fear anybody. He was actually Red Auerbach's personal bodyguard, along with Gene Conley, who played both professional basketball and professional baseball. And that's part of the things that I had heard about my dad.
Yeah, it was his first practice with the Celtics, and Jungle Jim Luskatoff kept giving him cheap shots under the basket, and my dad warned him twice, and he says, the next time I'm not going to take this no more. And he gave him a third one, and my dad grabbed him, threw him down, and punched him in the face once. And the rest of the team pulled him off of him. And Red Auerbach told him, he goes, I never thought anybody could do that to Jungle Jim. And he goes, you're my bodyguard. So that's how my dad became his bodyguard. But Jungle Jim gave him the nickname of Herc because when he took his jersey off after practice, he was all muscle. And he told Frank Ramsey never to drive down the middle because they'll kill you. So that's how he got his nickname.
I think, Jody, you could attest to how tough my dad was on the court because you played against him for
I still remember the referees going, now Gene, because he wasn't happy with their calls. But he was respected, and I think there was a fear factor that was involved in that whole process. But it was, he was a guy who played an honest game. He wasn't going to believe in cheating. Mm-hmm. He wanted honesty. He didn't want anybody to rip anybody off. And he even conducted himself that way in the band as well. But I remember that, I played him, I think, 2 times. And his recollection was different than mine. I mean, he played against everybody in the world, And mine was I survived, and I was happy with that.
Just that you survived, yeah. Yeah, he had come back from the Celtics, and he played some local semi-pro teams. Wilkes-Barre Barons, and did he play for the Scranton Apollos too, Dave?
No, the Weston Field League. He was in the league up there.
Okay.
And the way my father was if you drove down the middle, you're going to get killed by him because you're going to get fouled real hard, so you wouldn't do that again. So that's how he was, he grew up, and that's how he learned playing in the pros. Foul them as hard as you can. This way they won't do it again.
I remember a lot of his buddies that I met, like you said, Boy, and everything. He was built like a train, you could say. Jesus. His arm was as big as my waist. It's unbelievable. But they all got along. And Nipper, his good friend Nipper, was in the baseball, New York
Yankees farm team, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I remember going to see these guys. They drugged me out. They needed another body to play softball from, what was that place in Duryea? It's still there. It's right on the main drag. Falcons.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Polish Falcons team.
In the bus with all these guys. And there's some beer drinking going on before the game. So we get down to Shikshini or below Shikshini, and we get out there, and all of a sudden Nipper's in the outfield, and I'm watching. I think, look at this graceful guy. It's Nipper. Oh my God! And your father was the same way with the bat. Just that you could tell these guys were professional.
My father played softball for Rutgers
and Faleski's.
And Faleski's. They were both championship teams, I believe. And he also played for Leslie Fay. And he was a warm softball softie back in the late 60s with Pete Gabriel, Harry West, Ron Allen. Those were guys that were all on that Warm softball team. I remember that briefly.
Well,
when I
he
was a
did
young
work
kid.
for Warren for 2 years. With Ron Allen, they had their 2-hour sports show.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
for
did-
2 years he did that.
Wow. That's really
And which ties in with the music, because my father used to bring promotional records home all the time that he got from Warm Radio, on the newest music coming out. And I distinctively remember him bringing home Neil Young's album, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. And I remember the Cinnamon Girl was the big hit off that, and Cowgirl in the Sand. And I remember my dad bringing home that promotional copy from Warm Radio. And I had a great introduction to music through my father, because he always had the latest bands out, and he liked everything from Yes to Led Zeppelin to Neil Young to Grand Funk Railroad to Cream, Hendrix, even Black Sabbath. My father had a little bit of everything, and I had a great musical education through that. So that was something we always played the stereo. And
Yeah, he said Ron Allen had a photographic memory. That's how he could give out all the stats of everybody, just see a sheet and that's it.
no kidding.
Yeah. We used to go up their house in Old Forge and stuff. He had a
Yeah.
daughter. That's all I remember. Her daughter was around my age.
yeah, I remember going up the house a few times, and then hear my dad doing his sports casting on
Speaking
the
of
radio.
photographic memory, Dad had
Yeah.
tremendous memory.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He knew everybody's lyrics in the songs, whether he
Yep.
sang them or not. He knew everybody else's, and he knew his parts. I used to love going to watch him play with the Cadillacs and also with Side Street. He was always a well-prepared bass
Practice
player that
every
kind of
day,
played different than
always.
anybody else, and he had that older style that was like Jamerson, who was playing in Motown, and my dad loved that style of bass playing, and that was where he came from, playing with his using the finger technique.
He loved Stanley Clark. That was one of his favorite
Yeah,
bass players.
I also talked about Stanley Clark a
Yeah.
lot, yeah, and John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
Marlene, you had mentioned before we were talking, you were talking some of your favorite places that we played. You guys, I want you guys to talk about what you remember some of the favorite places that you saw us play. This is getting back to the Side Street days.
Side Street, I was pretty young, so I only basically went to see you guys up at Side.
Okay, we'll have to defer to the older gentleman.
Yeah, well, I remember, I still wasn't of age, but I started out with being
Staircase
one of
is
your
the only
early
place you-
roadies
you too, right?
when you guys were just starting
There,
out and going to the
Rocky
Rendezvous in
Glen.
Pittston.
Rocky Glen, yeah.
My favorite was the Kiln House in Wyoming. I always loved going there. It was a very intimate place. I remember I was impressed that they had Bose 901 speakers in the restaurant playing for the house music.
Wow.
And I liked the Staircase, the In-Between Lounge you guys played at, the Cloud 9, Cook's in Wilkes-Barre, and Mickey Finn's was a place that there would be so many people there that you guys would get wheelbarrow fulls of money.
I remember. Yeah, they were just great times. I mean, today, for a musician like yourself, there's just no place to play that could support the hundreds and hundreds of bands.
No. And you guys always played for the door, and you always did well because people were willing to pay the $2 or $3 to come and see you guys. And there would be thousands of people at some
Yeah.
of these places.
Yeah, other than going to Rocky Glen, I just went to your last time you played at the station, and that was the New Year's Eve party. And I came in from the Navy, so I got to get in and be your roadie. And I just remember they pulled up the train car with the kegs of beer and I think they had 2 cases of champagne for you. I think that was Jerry Sis that was running that.
Yes.
And it was so many people there, I had to go outside to get some air, and they wouldn't let me back in because I was underage. And Jerry goes, "Let him in, he's with the band."
That's a good memory, though.
Yeah.
My fondest memories were with the Cadillacs. I was always there. My weekends off, I take my mother, we go see them at Victoria Inn, Max Cafe. Where else did they play?
They played all over.
Yeah,
All
We
over.
even went up when they
Always
first
went to the
started playing. We
bazaars.
used to go to the Poconos to see them,
Yep.
and there wasn't a real lot of people there, but when they first started out.
Oh,
And
going.
then as the time went on, the crowd got bigger and bigger.
And the outdoor bazaars, always local bazaars. Duryea, Sacred Heart, that was a big thing. That
In Germania.
Germania.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The bazaars were wonderful.
the
'cause
bazaars are great. Yeah,
lots of
they
people
always had a
coming.
great following.
Jody, do you remember playing at East Stroudsburg State College when it was a state college before it was a university? You guys came and did a gig there. I set that up for you.
I vaguely remember. I vaguely remember. When was that?
That would have been about 1981.
Okay.
And I had taken a demo to the people that were responsible for the entertainment. And I remember you played in the East Stroudsburg cafeteria. And you had your bows set up there. And I remember you guys playing there. And there was a decent crowd there that night. And I remember afterwards, when you guys were driving home, two of the guys that I was in a band, just a garage band at the time with, were helping out on the way home. My dad got a flat tire with the truck, and he made them change the tire, and then he threw the old blown out tire. They just got rid of it, and that's something that they remember from that night. But it was a decent show. You know, Stroudsburg students came out to support you guys, and it was a decent show.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. That's all I can say.
I remember you playing at Pittston area high school dances too.
Well, that's why one of the guys that does some interviewing here on Jody Bush's Community House YouTube channel is Johnny Bittner from Johnny Bittner's Sunrooms and Additions.
Okay.
And he was a young guy bartending at Cook's Rock and Roll Club, and he loved your father. And he said, you guys, he's a little short guy, Johnny. And he said, you guys just treated me so good. I just, like, forever in my heart, I just am so happy that I know that I knew you guys, and not only did you treat me good, but you played well. And the house was packed all the time.
Yeah, you did very, very well at
Yeah.
Cook's. Very well.
We were just in the right place at the right time. But it was your father said, I'll hunt you down. I'll hunt this guy down. And he did.
Wow.
So here we are today to honor his, and your mother's legacy as well.
Yeah, they made connections with people, and that's one thing with my father, teaching, coaching, playing in the band. He made a lot of connections all around the valley, and the same thing with, usually my mom was with him, so she also did too. And, they had that personality that they drew people in.
Two of the guys that were on the one particular team, the Ruskowski brothers, I'm good friends with still. And they just, the one used to come down to cut your father's hedges and everything.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, yeah.
And they just, it was like, I remember your father say, hey, what are you doing Saturday? I said, nothing. He said, I was 26 or 18. I was still in semi-shape. He said, would you go up and beat these guys up for me, please? Okay, they need to know how to, because they're not playing against anybody at practice. So I'd do that, and we still talk about those days. But I know they're going to look forward to seeing this this production on the YouTube channel. And they just are just wonderful guys still. I'm very happy, and it's an interesting thing. Now here's somebody 40 years later, because of your father, I know these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, some of the other things I'm going to post that I had talked to you about, you take a look at them and you'll see other guys and other teammates that when they dedicated the floor to your father, 2016?
15.
15 January.
Yeah, it was January of 2015. The Pittston area gymnasium floor was, it was named, and they had my dad's signature, which I thought was the neatest thing. It looked just like my dad's signature, how he writes. And my dad had a distinctive style.
How they do that. I wish I would have had more presence of mind, but I did grab my wife's her cell phone and started recording. But unfortunately, instead of going sideways, I went straight up and down. So you'll see narrowness in the production. I'm getting better at this, I think. But that was just a wonderful dedication.
Yeah, my dad says in his speech when they dedicated the floor, he says, when I taught school and coached basketball, nobody walked all over me. Now everybody gets to walk all over me.
Yeah. Yep.
I always had a sense of humor.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
They recently remodeled the gym. They put all new bleachers in, and they set it up differently. But the
That
signature
floor's
on the
still
floor
there.
is, yeah, they made sure.
Yeah.
And John Anizio, who's one of the school board directors, made sure that that was taken care of. John was really a big push in getting that done back in
I remember
2015.
it was a very cold night.
Yeah, it was the
I
end
don't
of
know if you guys
January.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember we had a park real far in the parking lot. We were
Yeah.
walking up, and I think I froze.
And two security guards came to my house and escorted my parents out of the house, and we all drove down
And my father
together.
taught the one, well, probably both of them, but the one I know, Rick Romanko, he's a big, strong guy, and he escorted and made sure my dad was okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have the movies of that.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have some stills of those guys as well.
And I work with Rick's wife, Janet, so there's always a connection somewhere.
They weren't going to let anything happen to your father.
Yeah.
Right,
Nope.
right. That was a
Man.
wonderful night to see the
was.
teachers coming out and support, the former players, the students,
Yeah, it was-
and bandmates.
It was a beautiful dedication.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was a nice evening for both of them. My mom loved it too. My mom always liked the spotlight. She liked to be there because she was the perfect person to. She just showed well in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I said. They were a team.
Mm-hmm.
They were a team. And sometimes I think your mother would want to beat your father with a bowling pin or something. They had it. But-
Yeah. Well, they grew together. They started out at opposite ends. Two very different. Growing up, their childhoods were totally
Yeah.
different, and then eventually they grew right together. And my dad really mellowed out over the years, and they got close. They were very, very loving, all the way up to the end. And my mom was lost after my father had passed away.
I remember your mother touching your father when he was in coffin, saying, "Don't worry, honey, I'll be there." You know.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
God she hung in a couple more years.
Yes, she did.
Terrible was COVID.
Yeah.
Right at that time,
That's
that
right.
was
When COVID
that was-
came out was when
That
she
was
died.
sad. Yeah, we were only allowed to have 10 people at her graveside and also in the funeral home and for the wake, and that was a shame.
But she really went downhill after he was gone because they were together every day,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, like I said, they went out
And
all
she
the
took
time.
care of him.
Mhm.
Besides myself, my mom took care of him when I was at work. Yep.
Yeah.
She was a great mother, a great wife, great grandmother, just a great person. Lost my best friend. But she's out, they're looking down on us. They're always with us.